Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners issues and updates on this August 6, 2024. County Administrator Gary Schmidt, you're up first.
Thank you, Chair Smith. All commissioners are present. We are jumping forward on the agenda to deflection plan update. There's been a lot going on, commissioners, and we want to brief you with this. And to just give this briefing is our District Attorney, John Wentworth. District Attorney Wentworth, please come forward.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Good morning. I'm District Attorney John Wentworth, and I guess to bring everyone up to speed, just so we're on the same page, Clackamas County submitted an application, having previously been told that we would receive about $1 million, not quite $1 million, in funding to stand up a deflection program. We submitted an application to the state explaining what that program would look like. It was based on a program that the Clackamas County DA's office and Sheriff's office had several years ago before ballot measure 110 took it away from us, essentially. It was a successful program. We were proud of it. We were one of the few offices in the state to have such a program. It was based on a program out of Seattle. Our application was submitted and it was due July 1st. As you might know, we were given a very short timeline because this process began just in this short legislative session. And so we had to come up with a plan and have it ready, and the plan is to have this ready to go by September 1st. Thursday, we learned that our grant application had been denied by the Impacts Grant, which is a subset, I understand, of the Criminal Justice Commission. That was a shock to us because we had a program, as I've mentioned, that we knew was successful. We knew it would work in Clackamas County. And initially, it looks like we're not going to have that opportunity. That's frustrating in a number of ways because we have half the population of Multnomah County, but we were already just being given a quarter of the money that Multnomah County is receiving to make this program work. Clackamas County residents are entitled, I think, to have every bit of an opportunity that other counties have, but as it stands right now, they will not. The committee began with Clackamas County. They were going alphabetically through the list. They were very critical of our program. They granted other counties that day and began on Friday with Marion County. They were also critical of the Marion County program, which was very similar to the program we had. And it was interesting because there was a moment in that process where I believe it was Representative Conrad shared, wait a minute, what are we doing here? I thought Marion County was supposed to be the gold standard for what these programs are supposed to look like. How can Marion County now not be qualified to receive this money? And the whole tenor of the room changed when that happened. And they granted Marion County's request. I think there was one nay. The rest voted yay. They granted the other counties' programs that day as well. Tomorrow at 8 a.m., they will consider the last 4 applications. I don't know all of the counties. One of them is Umatilla. One of them is Washington. Washington County's program is very, very similar to ours. So we're waiting with some anticipation for what the committee will do with that application as well. So here's the process. What do we have in our quiver of arrows that we can shoot at this? One is to ask the committee to reconsider our application in light of the other applications that have been submitted. Again, we were the first that they considered. They granted Multnomah County's program without any hesitation. And we know from watching in the press the challenges that Multnomah County has had setting up their program. So we will ask to have that reconsidered. If that is denied or we're unsuccessful, there is an appellate process that we will take advantage of because I think that's what we owe to Clackamas County residents, to at least try to make this work. If that doesn't happen, we will not receive I think it's $950,000, and we will not be able to stand up a deflection program in Clackamas County. It's as simple as that. So that's where we are. This is a dynamic process right now. I spoke to the Clackamas County legislators yesterday. I understand this morning that they have drafted a letter that they are sending in support of our program. I know there have been conversations with the governor about this and about the process that has occurred. We were not given an opportunity to know up front what challenges folks thought we might have about the program. It was simply denied. So that's part of this process as well. So I'm staying as informed about this as I can. I will be on the call tomorrow so that I can watch and provide any information that they might need to more fully consider our application. But I want to assure you that we are pushing forward and trying to make this work. Our local public safety coordinating council met yesterday to discuss this. Everyone's on board. We want this to happen in Clackamas County. We have a lot of support. It's a great program that we're trying to stand up. Again, we know it's successful, and we just want Clackamas County residents to have that same opportunity that other residents around Oregon will have.
Thank you, District Attorney Wentworth. I just want to go through this a little bit so people that don't know about this can understand. So this was a result of House Bill 2004.
4002.
I mean 4002. I'm sorry, I got mixed up. 4002. We have gone through a lot of numbers early this morning. And in that legislation, did it say a committee would be set to determine funding?
I don't believe it did.
No, it did not. And I know that. So first of all, this isn't even legislatively approved. Our denial is not legislatively approved. The governor decided to insert herself in this to appoint members who don't really like the methods that maybe our county is conducting, Marion County, and so forth. And so if you were not given a reason, I mean, could you even guess what that reason would be for denial?
Well, they shared a number of concerns that they had for our program. One is that our office is receiving a good chunk of the money that we have. Part of that reason is that the subject matter expert of this program is Bill Stewart, who is, as you know, the community prosecutor in Clackamas County. He set up the program to start with. He is the person in our county who is best equipped to meld law enforcement efforts and social service efforts to make this work. So it seemed reasonable to me that our office's attempts to make this successful should be compensated just as any other government entity would. I don't think we'd be having this conversation if Bill Stewart worked in another office. It also contemplates that we'll receive a deputy DA, which other counties are also getting. The reason we need that is we're going to see a higher caseload as a result of 4002. We're recriminalizing drug use. Somebody has to do that work. And other offices that have asked for a deputy DA are getting that deputy DA. One of the other issues that they've raised is that we're citing people to court. Police officers have to cite people to court. We can call it something else, but it's community court. And ideally, in this deflection process, a person will never even have to see a judge. They simply come and get the services they need to be successful in this treatment modality. So we have contemplated all of this. We thought it through. We know it's successful. The challenges that I think the committee has are challenges that there are easy explanations for, and we meet the grade. We are statutorily sound in our process.
So they don't like the fact that we're using a very slight component of public safety to do the deflection program, of which we have been very successful in Clackamas County for many years on, and we're enhancing or continuing what we're already doing. And by the way, doesn't Marion County funding a sheriff in their program?
They are.
Excuse me, they're funding a sheriff, and we're doing an ADA who has been in social services for many, many years doing that, and somehow we're denied, and Marion County is granted. I have to think this is political. There's a very important election going on in this county, and I'm going to say what it is. They want to take Tootie Smith out as chair, and the Democrats in the Oregon legislature will play dirty and do whatever they can to insert themselves in our political election, not only for me, but the 5th Congressional. And quite frankly, I'm coming out swinging. I'm coming out swinging at every single one of them. I will be on the phone with the governor this afternoon, and I will tell her the same thing. Because there is evidence, ladies and gentlemen, that they're already playing in the election. These people who sat on this committee, who voted to take Clackamas County, are giving political contributions to my opponent. I will not stand for that, And if it's the last breath I take, and it just might, but by God, I'm going down swinging. If they think they're going to do this to Clackamas County, oh, heck no. We have other commissioners in the queue. Commissioner West, you're up.
Thank you, Chair. A couple questions for you. It's my understanding that this Impacts Committee, which is the committee that I believe those members are appointed by Kate Brown and Tina Kotek, am I correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. And it's this committee that's reviewing these applications. Can you please speak to the point where many of the applications that were approved had the final decision maker? If somebody was going through the deflection process or diversion process, those things are so convoluted. It's hard to figure out which one is which. Maybe one is a made-up term and one is a real thing, but that's something else. If they get through all of the opportunities that we are trying to have them not be charged or have a record or have to have a defense attorney, they get to that point where they have to have a little more accountability. Am I right that some counties, or majority of counties, have some committee of unelecteds? Lord knows where that committee is comprised of or how they're chosen, makes the decision on whether or not that person should have that level of accountability. And in our application, it is your role as the elected DA
Right.
that would make. Can you speak to that and explain it?
Sure. I want to be clear because I think this is a misconception. It really isn't confusing, the difference between deflection and diversion. I want to make it simple for this committee, not just this group. Diversion is a post-charge approach to giving someone a second chance to avoid sentencing. So a person's charged with a crime, they go through a diversion process, they're diverted away from sentencing and given a chance at treatment so they can avoid a conviction, a full conviction, and a criminal record. A deflection, a person isn't even charged with a crime. That's what our program begins with as well. Some counties are going straight to diversion, which, by the way, a district attorney doesn't even have to do. They can go straight to charge and sentencing. We're taking a three-step approach. There's a deflection, there's a diversion, and then there's sentencing if necessary, just to get someone into treatment and make them successful in their life. Some counties have a team approach or a committee approach of reviewing who is eligible for deflection. We could do that. They have multi-agencies that come together and they decide on a case-by-case basis whether someone is going to get deflection. Our approach has a committee of two. One is our community prosecutor in conjunction with our program navigator, who is a social service worker, to make that decision. My opinion, and that's all it is that having a whole committee of people make that decision is a whole lot of work and time to make a very easy decision about who's eligible for deflection. So I believe that should stay within the purview of the DA's office and have a social service component to that, but to have a whole team review case-by-case basis of whether someone should get deflection or not is laborious and not the best use of all the time that we have to do this work. We're all overworked, right? We all have a lot to do, and I just think that's, for our county, that is a larger process than is really needed.
DA Wentworth, my other question for you is, it felt like quite the shock on Thursday evening going into the weekend that we were denied our funding. It is my opinion that Clackamas County is outperforming the rest of the state. Out of all 36 counties, we've been kind of this pocket of excellence. We are doing amazing things in this space. So my question for you is, did we get any notes or feedback? Did they ever say, hey, we're considering this denial, but maybe we can work with you on this application, or we need something clarified? Did we get any kind of collaborative feedback before we received this shocking news? And did any of our legislators, do you know of within Clackamas County Caucus, know that this was coming either, or were they also caught off guard? I don't know if you can speak to that process, if we're actually getting positive feedback to move forward.
No, we didn't get any heads up that this is going to be an issue. And my understanding is that we were all caught off guard by this denial.
Okay. thank you for your work, and I hope we can figure out how to get this done. I've been in long conversations. I talked to Senator Lever yesterday. We've talked multiple times. We have talked to the vast majority of the legislators that are in Clackamas County. I got the same impression that everybody was quite shocked and appalled across the political spectrum from different local authorities and from the legislature that this had happened. I hope that ultimately maybe this whole impacts committee is under the purview of the governor. She probably could just snap her fingers right now and make this happen and fix it if she wanted to. So I hope that she's looking at this closely. And thank you for your work and collaborative work with the board and county commissioners on standing up our deflection program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Schull.
Yes, DA Wentworth, thank you for all your work. I know your team's worked very hard on this. Question for you. For those counties who had their deflection plan approved, were you able to ascertain in those plans what you might be able to slightly change in yours before it's appealed? Is that possible?
Sure. However, I mean, I wouldn't want to do Multnomah County's program.
No.
Some of the lessons I learned are that there are programs that I think will not actually achieve success, and yet this is what this committee has approved. There are other programs that couched their application as a proposal, as a we would like to do this kind of program. And some of the feedback I've gotten is that if we had said instead, this is aspirational and not we have a plan in place, we might have had more success. And that's ironic to me.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you if you can maybe tell us the distinction between your program or our proposal or our ask versus Multnomah County's.
Well, one of the challenges, one of the things that Multnomah County is well-resourced, better resourced than we are. And as you are aware, they have what they're calling a deflection center set up. Their center, if it met the same criteria as our service mall, which is what our community court is, it could be super successful. I think they're not there yet. Their program contemplates that someone is brought to their center, they receive an assessment there, and that might satisfy their program. Our program requires folks to go deeper into the process to receive treatment and to show success in that treatment to avoid having to have the case submitted to the DA's office for review and then subsequent prosecution. It also, as you may know from reading in the paper, contemplated more opportunities at deflection than we're going to give. Again, we don't have unlimited resources in our county. At some point, it has to stop. If someone isn't successful in deflection, again, we want them to be successful, and we will work with them for that to happen. But if they need additional resources, we want to get them those resources right away, and Multnomah County does not do that. There are a number of other differences, but those are two of the most significant ones.
So, as you described, if I heard you correctly, that is that someone is, we'll say apprehended, but approached by law enforcement, and they make the call to give them an opportunity, your model, for deflection and going to treatment. And they also, if they refuse that, then they're charged, and then they have a second opportunity of diversion, right? That maybe they can, it's incentivizing them to get the treatment they need, which I think two bites at the apple, so to speak. But it sounds like the Multnomah County model doesn't really have the incentive for those folks to actually take the treatment as much as perhaps ours, right?
That's right.
So it's a shame. I'm also disheartened to hear what took place last week as well. So I think having that proven model and having two options for those folks, or two opportunities to see the light, I cannot help but hearken back to 10, 12 years ago when I was approached by a parent saying, is there anything you can do to please arrest my son?
Yeah.
Because that's the only way, there's nothing else we can do. We've tried everything. And they really felt, because they loved their son, they really cared about their son, that the only choice they had was, or thought they had was, what if they get arrested? They could see the light, get clean, and hopefully that'll be a life-changing moment for them. And so that's what I just wanted to just kind of share. Thank you for your explanation.
Thank you.
Before I move on, County Council Jane Veto, you have your light on.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You don't have your light on?
Do not.
Okay, all right, just making sure there was a, Commissioner Schrader.
Yeah, I think many of you know I've been here for a while, as Commissioner Savas has, and Tootie has. And I always attempt to behave in about as nonpartisan a manner as possible, because our job is pretty pragmatic and straightforward. I believe this is political, and it makes me very upset with colleagues, and I too will be making some phone calls. This program was something we actually pioneered, because I was here when we were doing this program. I went to many drug court, graduations where people were being moved into sobriety and away from, pretty much destroying their lives. And I have respect for my colleagues in Multnomah County. However, I do think that our effectiveness really has been one of the best in the state. And that is why I'm was very dismayed and came about as close to getting angry as I do, but I try not to get angry with these things. So I don't know, colleagues, I think we need to push. I was disturbed that this Justice Committee evidently doesn't understand Clackamas County, doesn't understand the successes we have had, and doesn't understand or want to understand how effective we've been with what we've done. So I hope we can turn this around. And if there's any help you need from any of us, I know all of us will be there for you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to finish up with a couple of comments. DA Wentworth, there were 23 counties who chose to participate, because some county says, forget it, I'm not doing this. We don't have the resources to match this, and it's a match. You're not going to take a program like this and start from zero and think you're going to be effective, because there's not enough money to do it. Thank you. So I have 23 counties. Clackamas County was the only county that was denied. My next question, what percentage of people who are in the deflection program take treatment?
Well, we don't have a deflection program yet.
Of the
so I
program
can't
that
answer.
we are currently running?
Well, the closest thing we have to it currently is our drug court. And what I can share with you, this is how powerful addiction is. Drug court operates when someone has the risk of going to prison hanging over their head. About 50% of the people fail.
So about 50% of the people, are you saying, will choose prison over rehabilitation?
They end up going back and choosing addiction or having sufficient trouble with their addiction that prison is the outcome.
Thank you. Also, I'm going to challenge the legality, the fact this committee was even set up, because it's outside legislative purview, and I will state again, this is a governor-appointed committee of specially hand-picked people with her philosophy in mind. I'm also going to read a commitment letter that was signed by you, Sheriff Brandenburg, and myself back on February 23rd of this year, when the legislators came to the counties and said, are you willing to do X, Y, Z? We hadn't even seen the legislation. We were asked to sign on to a piece of legislation that wasn't even written and we couldn't read it. With that in mind, this is how we answered. And I'm looking back on this letter, colleagues, and it was supposed to be sitting at the dais today. I don't know what happened with that directive, Gary, but it's not here. And I did give it to the news media, and it's very elegant. And this is what the letter says. Clackamas County will participate in a deflection program of House Bill 2004-24, contingent upon sufficient funding provided by the legislature. You don't get any simpler than that, folks. Clackamas County supports replacing Measure 110 with legislation that supports recovery, treatment, and funding, and restores law enforcement. Period. Those are very plain, elegant words. I hope people are paying attention to that. And another caveat, there's not a single county of the 23 counties that agreed onto the letter that the legislators sent. They wrote their own, they submitted their own, with contingencies just like us. So they know what they're doing. They know. And I'll submit, we were singled out not to have funding. Any other further comments from commissioners? Commissioner West.
I think that you, John, really kind of encapsulate something. We have, and I've said this, you've heard me say this yesterday, we have two competing visions on how to solve this problem. And it looks like this committee is made up of people that helped create the problem, and now they want to pretend like they have the authority to solve it. This board is made up of those that are responsible for a lot of the bad policy that we are all living with today and we are all sick of, that is really causing a level of despair, human despair in our streets and communities that we've never seen before. Be clear, those are the people that said no to how we do it in Clackamas County. Those are the ones that said that we shouldn't have the funding even though we have the best performance, and by merit alone, we should have been funded first. It was those that didn't even like House Bill 4002. That was the soft fix to Measure 110. They loved Measure 110. The people who loved Measure 110 and the proliferation of hard illicit drugs in our communities are the ones that said no to us and said no to the amazing work that this board, along with DA Wentworth, the Sheriff's Office, and amazing county workers in H3S, and the judiciary within Clackamas County, all coming together for multiple meetings for hours, pining and laboring about how we could figure out how to make this work at a local level because we know what's best for our community. That's who said no to us. It is my understanding, and maybe I talked to Senator Lieber, who is the majority leader in the Senate, who is a big driver and working on House Bill 4002, is that we should expect them to make a motion to reconvene to look at our application again. That is likely.
Good.
Am I correct? Have you heard the same thing?
Well, remember, there's an elected DA on the committee.
Yeah.
And I have asked him to make that motion if no one else does.
Okay. And then what happens if we have to appeal? What does that timeline look like? And is this law going to stand up before we have before we have a deflection program? And so are we left with the governor making us just arrest people without actually getting them access to treatment? What predicament are we in right now if we have to take the time to go we're on razor thin timeline? So what does that look like practically?
Yeah, we're in the red zone. That's my worry. Once we receive official notice, and we have not received official notice yet that we've been denied, we have 14 days to appeal, and we will appeal. So that's a 14-day process alone. In the meantime, we have received no funding. And we have a program that we have to have ready, we're supposed to have ready September 1st. So to your point, our local public safety coordinating council is concerned that we cannot have that program up and running on September 1st like it should be. We're just, the timeline is too short at this point.
So what happens when we have to have by statute have a new law to enforce? What does that look like practically on our streets in Clackamas?
We will not have a deflection program in place, and someone will be charged with PCS for possession of a controlled substance. They'll enter the court system. They'll be given a court-appointed attorney. They'll be offered treatment, but it will be a more expensive process for Clackamas County.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. I just want to think it's clear that we tell the truth about the two competing visions about what Oregon and what our community should look like. Clackamas County is giving you a clear depiction of what that is. We are not going to be Multnomah County, and we do not adhere to that worldview or those policies. We are being punished because of that. But I think this board, and I think DA Whitworth, you would agree that we are committed to continue to do good local work, but I wanted to make sure that that was clear in our statements today. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from anyone on this? John, thanks for coming today.
Thank you.
And thank you for your work in fighting for the citizens of Clackamas County.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You bet. Gary, what's next?
Thank you. And DA, you'll keep us informed of what happens tomorrow, please? Absolutely. Thank you. If you want to stay, Mr. Wentworth, there's another issue related to Measure 110, Commissioners. We'll go to this item next. Measure 110 formula funds have been changed to Clackamas County. We want to tell you what's happened and perhaps, with your approval, do a letter to the legislature. Tonya Holowetsky is Interim Director of Public and Government Affairs. Trent Wilson, Government Affairs Manager. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. We're going to stay in the Measure 110 space for this conversation as well. The Measure 110 Accountability and Oversight Council recently, actually in July, while you were on recess, adjusted the previous formula to improve revenue to rural communities where the previous formula didn't provide sufficient funding. But as a result of the change that they are proposing, or they made the change, Clackamas County will be receiving less funding than we originally were to receive. So in the first iteration of the formula, we were ranked 5th. In the new formula, we dropped to 7th. So we will be receiving less dollars and less funding than we were receiving in the previous formula. And as you know, this is all intended to fund addiction recovery. The money doesn't come directly to Clackamas, but it goes through the Behavioral Health Resource Networks, or the BURNS, for addiction recovery services. So in addition to that, HB 4002 uses this formula to fund how it will distribute dollars for the newly created deflection programs that we were just talking about with DA Wentworth. And so that means that if the legislature continues the deflection program, that means then that we will continue to receive less funding for the deflection program as well. So we learned about this, as I said, while you're on recess. Trent spent some time trying to dig deeper into what this means. I'm going to hand it off to you, Trent, in just a minute to provide any additional details. The council will meet next Wednesday at 1:30 p.m., and we were recommending that perhaps we send a letter with our concerns around this reduction in funding. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Trent to add any additional details.
Trent, before you refer to the letter, it's not posted in our packet materials. We need a copy, correct?
Correct. We had a draft, but in light of the current deflection conversation, we thought it would be best to inform you of this detail first, let that deflection conversation play out, and then receive any comments that can inform our letter depending on how this conversation goes. So
Have any
we'll
of the
put that to next
commissioners
week.
seen the letter? I have read a draft of it. I can't remember when it was, I think last week. But frankly, I don't remember everything. I think it's 4 pages, single-spaced letter. So it's, yes, it's quite good. I want to thank you, but continue.
Yes, so thank you. All of this happened over the recess, and so it took some time to figure out the nuances of this formula. This is cannabis. These are cannabis dollars that go into a bucket of fund to fund the Measure 110 recovery program. These dollars are available per county to be applied for by grants. Clackamas County does not receive these dollars directly. The BURNS, the Behavioral Health Resource Networks, are able to apply for these programs. And so that tranche of funding is a certain amount of money over a certain amount of time based on the cannabis revenue that comes in. So it just so happens that Clackamas did not apply for those funds, and I think there are 16 BURNS that do receive those funds. So as that formula reduces the amount to Clackamas County, the available funding for those programs is also reduced. That's concern number one. So hold it over here, because what gets complicated is in House Bill 4002, when they created the deflection program, they needed to fund it quickly and with existing formulas and revenues. And so they piggybacked on this formula and said, use that formula also to sort of navigate how you spend revenue here. And so you just heard DA Wentworth describe that Multnomah County is getting more money than, they have 4 times as many people, and we're only getting like a quarter of the amount of funding. That's true for other counties who even have less population than Clackamas County. In the current deflection program, we are, I think, 6th in funding. In the Measure 110 program, we're 5th in funding. And the changes to this formula reduce even more the amount of funding available to Clackamas County. I know it's super complicated, and the letter tidies that up a little bit better than I'm doing here. But the point here is that there are very few opportunities to provide input into this council. And so we are recommending that we're happy to take your questions and try our best to detail the answers, but take an opportunity to plant a flag that this formula is, number one, not working for Clackamas County. As the 3rd largest population in the state, population weight should be considered more heavily than it currently is. And because this formula now includes not just the Measure 110 funding, but also this deflection program, that additional types of consideration and accountability should be included so that these types of approvals to the formula are not a surprise. And this was a surprise. Thank you.
Okay, in your letter, you had a chart of the amount of money that's been reduced. Do you want to talk to us that?
I'll do my best. So previously, the county was receiving, looked like it would have been an estimated $36 million a year over the next 4 years if it were to continue. We had received about, I believe, 27 million for the last 4 years. That was available over a 4-year period to those programs. So remember, those divided amongst those 16 grant applicants. Moving forward, if that formula had not changed, about 36 million would have been available to Clackamas County. But because of the changes that they made, only 27 million will be available to Clackamas County for those programs. So it's a reduction, or it's really a flat for Clackamas County.
So that's 9 million over for a period of time, in addition to not receiving any monies from the deflection program. Correct? Am I trying to understand this problem correctly?
Yes, you're doing a great job because it's numbers and you're not looking at the same thing that I am. I'm happy to hand this to you after I step off. But yes, it's lower for the Measure 110 programs, and it will consequently be lower as a result of the whole package of the deflection program too moving forward.
Okay, I'll have another comment. We have commissioners ahead. Paul and then Martha.
Yeah, so if I heard you early on, Tanya, you mentioned that rural element to this. Could you just elaborate again on that? So
Yeah.
I have a second question, but I want clarity on that one first.
Trent to speak to that.
All right, so formerly, the formula did not really give substantial funding over a 4-year period to these communities that are considered hyper-rural or extremely rural. Over a 4-year period, what was available to someone like Sherman or Gilliam County was $700,000 over a 4-year period. Not a lot of money to stand up full-time programs. So the Oversight and Accountability Council decided to set a flat rate for the extremely small counties of $2 million each, so a floor, if you will. So all those counties get from $700 up to $2 million over that 4-year period. And then as a consequence of that being leveraged somewhere, something else gets leveraged somewhere else. And so the counties with higher populations and more programs, they're seeing that reduction. I'll also add, and this is a comment that we make in the draft letter that you'll see next week, part of the county's formula that really penalizes us in a lot of ways is your success in the housing program. Housing is called out as a metric that weights the formula, and it uses the point in time count. And proportionally, Clackamas County crushes it, does really well in that category. And so it really pulls down what's available to Clackamas County versus other counties that have, higher homeless counts, higher points of addiction, but it's one of several formula pieces, and it captures this one moment in time, but informs a 4-year formula. That's just really a critique we make in the letter that you'll see next week.
Okay, so I guess my comment is, okay, thanks for that clarity. And, knowing that these funding streams are totally unique, right?
Yeah.
You can't make a relationship between housing and these programs, right? I mean, they're two different funding streams. So I fail to understand the logic or the motivation of how whatever methodology was used to derive that formula, how that's driven. But when I think about it being the largest populated rural county, top 3 counties in population, urban and rural combined, and then to come out from going from 5th to 7th in our ranking, I just don't follow how that formula is flawed, or for whatever reason. So observation, it sounds frustrating, but, whether it's this conversation or it's last conversation, when, I guess my concern has always been when we're dealing with the state in a number of areas that we're promised one thing and we play the good part. I know that I had reluctance about signing on to the deflection language.
I would agree with you.
Yep. And my concern was, well, I've been here before, and then the deal changes, right? I mean, to me, if we're going to the table and working with the state hand in hand to solve these problems, for our citizens, how many times do we got to, really get shorthanded or have the rug pulled out from under our feet? I mean, it just seems unfair. can't help but to think about HB 2017 when, before that even happened, we were asked to come together, tell us what we wanted, and then at the last minute, in the last 2 weeks of HB 2017, they decided that all those projects get funded except for ours, and ours would be told. Another example of getting the rug pulled out from under our feet. So I just hope that, I want to trust our partners, but I think this formula needs to be explained
Thank
on
you.
why it's so lopsided.
Absolutely. Commissioner Schrader?
Yeah, building on what you've said, Paul, I actually am beginning to feel we get penalized for our success, and it's not just us, it's our staff. Because you're the ones doing all the work, and to have these successes and then not to be recognized or otherwise have the appropriate funding is deeply disturbing.
It's counterintuitive.
Yeah, I mean, really. I mean, what are they trying to do? Pull defeat out of the jaws of victory? I mean, I don't know. I don't get this. But I do have some questions about this. So who was this committee again that changed the formula? Explain that. Give me a little more background on that.
Thank you. The Measure 110 Oversight and Accountability Council is
Okay.
the group that's been stood up to consider this. They are under the umbrella of OHA. I can do more research as to how they're appointed. I couldn't answer that
Who's
today.
on that committee? just
OHA, I
because-
thought was Oregon Justice Commission.
So that's where it gets complicated. Thank you for that clarity.
Now, let's, yeah, because, we're hearing all kinds of government state, so what is it?
So the Measure 110 and Oversight and Accountability are under the auspice, under the umbrella of OHA because it was designed to deliver programs to behavioral health resources to curb addiction. So there was no public safety elements intended in that, which was the intent of Measure 110, as you recall. And so it was designed to be programmatic and recovery focused. So all under the auspices of OHA. When House Bill 4002, this February, 4 years later, says use this formula as a foundation for how to distribute things to this public safety issue, now this committee in charge of this formula has a touch point with how dollars are distributed to different program for public safety needs that is under the umbrella of the CJC, the Criminal Justice Commission. So this is kind of described in the letter that because this new touch point, one thing that would recommend y'all consider in your letter is that there should be either public safety involvement or that these things should be separated.
Okay, but can I just, another
Yeah,
question?
please continue.
What does Burns, BURNS, what are these entities and why is the money getting funneled through them again?
So there are behavioral health resource networks, and if there's more details needed on that, I would ask Mary Rumbaugh to come help me with that question in particular.
Mary, could you briefly come, because we need to move this along,
Yeah.
and we have other commissioners. Thank you very much. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mary Rumbaugh, Behavioral Health Division Director for Clackamas County. So these are all community-based providers, many known to you, Bridges to Change, Northwest Family Services, who their specialty is really peer outreach and engagement, outpatient treatment, some recovery housing. We did get recovery housing through Measure 110 funding 4 years ago. So it's known entities to us.
Anything else?
And they're all around the state? This just happens to be our collaborative?
That's correct. We have 16 entities that make up one behavioral health resource network here in
So every
Clackamas.
county has them?
Multnomah has 3, Washington, Clackamas have 1, and there's varying numbers of agencies within each burn.
Okay, thank you for that. I just want some clarity. Okay, I'm done.
Commissioner West.
What a clown car. I mean, so instead of replicating success, they want to penalize it. Such an Oregon thing to do. They don't want to communicate it. Surprise! Such another Oregon thing to do. My question is as we work with our legislative caucus and partners, and I know they held a meeting yesterday to help support our deflection program that DA Wentworth just talked to us about. Are they involved in this process about fixing this formula that's penalizing Clackamas County, which has been, by all objective matters, wildly successful? And the same board that they're using through Measure 110 has been wrought with dysfunction and scandal from its beginning. I mean, just look at the Oregonian. I mean, we're talking about utter incompetence, like the inability to get funding out the door, all the structural issues around Measure 110, hyper ideological and political, and within how it's trying to push out the funding, not getting those dollars to local communities, and then here we are again being penalized by one of the most incompetent boards ever to be established in the history of the state. I am not being, that's not hyperbolic, that is absolute truth. So this clown car is telling successful local governments how they should be funded or are running their programs and getting funding to these essential partners in our burn network, and the burn unit. Burn unit is a nursing term. And the burn, different group, sorry. Different, anyways, you know what I mean. So I'm really curious about the relationship, and if we have really pinged this immediately with our caucus, the Clackamas Caucus. I just think they would be also appalled by this too. They're just sending out a letter on the issue around deflection, and I know John just had a meeting with them. Can we speak to that? Are we partnering with them to really try to push back, and what are our chances of fixing this mess?
Great questions. Our delegation, I don't think, is fully aware of this new tie and the new impact of this. And I'm not sure either how informed they were about the formula change when it was happening and its effects that it would be. And it's complicated because I think this committee was trying to make it better for rural communities who don't have funding to do this, which is pretty noble, but it does affect, it has trickle-down effect to the bigger counties that do this program too. So it's complicated in that way. We are hoping that this letter is really a first milestone for us to begin engaging our legislators so that they are able to point to something that they can advocate for on our behalf to improve our funding needs and resources for both the addiction work as well as the public safety work that the DA office has put together with our behavioral health team.
I just want to say, I think we need to do more than provide the letter to the caucus. We need to convene another immediate meeting with them. And I hope that we can also maybe bend the ear of Senator Wagner, who is the Senate president. He is in Lake Oswego, represents large portions of Clackamas County. And the House Minority Leader and the Senate Minority Leader also touch Clackamas County. There's a lot of really important legislative effort here. I hope we can do some really robust lobbying now to get this fixed. So thank you.
I will say they are hyper-focused on helping us with this deflection grant application first, and this really does complicate that conversation at large. So we will start, once we get the letter from the county, we can then start engaging our legislators on this.
Okay, we don't know what that letter is. We're not going to take action on that today. Gary, is there any hurry in doing this letter in light that the committee has not listened to our appeal on the other matter?
When is this committee meeting to discuss this? You said earlier.
Next Wednesday, 1:30.
All right.
The
Tomorrow
14th.
Wednesday or the next?
Next Wednesday, the 14th.
Okay, so we have 2 Wednesday meetings. We have the deflection program tomorrow that Wentworth will be representing us at. And then I suggest that we wait to see the action on that, and then we will review this other. I mean, I don't know what else to do with it. This is such a mess. It's so confusing. Nobody knows who's on first. Nobody knows even what friggin' state they're living in. Gary?
All right, why don't we just see what happens tomorrow with the other matter, and then we'll come back to you, commissioners, on how to comment on this issue.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, up next.
Thank you. All right, we'll go back to the published agenda. Chair, would you please convene as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board of Directors?
I will recess as the Board of County Commissioners and convene as the North Clackamas Parks Recreation District Board.
This is a advisory board approval for the Parks District. Tony, go ahead, please.
The Milwaukee Community Center Advisory Board currently has 1 opening on the board due to a resignation. Through a recruitment process, 2 applications were received. 1 is recommended for appointment. That recommendation is Rosie Herboth to a first term.
Okay. Move approval?
Second.
Just a moment. Commissioner Schrader has moved we approve to the Milwaukee Community Center Advisory Board, Rosie Herboth, and Commissioner Savas has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please call the poll.
Director West.
Here. Sorry. Yes. Aye. Sorry.
That's all right.
Director
Both are
Shaw.
Aye.
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Next.
Thank you. Chair, would you please reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners?
I will recess as the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District Board and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners.
This is now a request for consent agenda for the Board of County Commissioners. First, elected officials. The Sheriff's Office, item 1, approval of a board order authorizing a purchase order under a cooperative contract with Axon Enterprise for public safety video surveillance equipment with related software, cloud services, and accessories. Purchase order value is $860,810.18 for 3 years. Funding is through the Sheriff's Public Safety Local Option Levy. No county general funds are involved. Is anyone here from the Sheriff's Office? Come on forward.
Please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Tony Dalskill. I'm the Sheriff's Technology Manager.
I know this is your first time. I know Nancy was here and she had to leave, it looks like. Give a quick 1-minute update of what this is, please, for the board.
We are purchasing 82 additional camera systems for patrol cars. We currently have 150 of these systems already in use. This will complete the retrofit of our fleet.
Questions or comments from commissioners? And this is a budgeted item.
It is budgeted, yes.
Seeing no objections, thank you for coming in.
Thank you, Tony. All right, next, Finance Department, item 1, approval of a contract with Johnson Controls for the development and implementation of a comprehensive sequence of operation for the expansion of the central utility plant. Total contract value is $403,061. Funding is through budgeted county general funds and is eligible for a 50% reimbursement from the Oregon Courthouse Capital Construction and Improvement Fund. Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director, Jeff Jorgensen, Facilities Division Director. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. So this is an expansion of our central utility plant, and what that means, it is a contract that sets the automatic controls for our chillers, our cooling towers, boilers, and generators. So this is a system connector to make it more effective and efficient. It automates all of our buildings, including the replacement courthouse, for effective heating and cooling. So this is I would say, a very effective and efficient cost.
Right, it's supposed to
Yeah.
provide maximum efficiency, effectiveness, reduce costs, so we're running the systems, the buildings, the most efficient manner.
Yeah, and this will be done by December 31st, this contract, but the testing of these systems will continue through when the replacement courthouse is open.
Thank you. Commissioner Shaw.
Yes, question. This is not going to apply to the old courthouse, is it?
No.
Okay, good, thank you.
Further questions? Seeing no objections, thank you.
Thank you. Next, Transportation and Development. Item 1, approval of a personal services contract with Consor North America for construction engineering support and inspection services for 2024 local paving, chip seal, and slurry seal projects. Contract value is $392,069. Funding is through House Bill 2017 road funds. No county general funds are involved. Dan Johnson, Director of Transportation and Development. Go ahead, please.
Sheriff Smith, Commissioners, basically that title explains it all. I'm here to share with you the fact that we are looking for engineering support and inspection services for our 2024 local paving, chip seal, and slurry package. Standard operational procedures, we look for assistance in doing some of the inspection services and construction engineering with the large scope and scale of the projects that we have on an annual basis. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 2, approval of a public improvement contract with Eagle Elstner for the Haynes Road paving project. Contract value is $1,200,000. Funding is through House Bill 2017 road funds. No county general funds are involved.
This contract is for the Haynes Road paving package, which will resurface approximately 1.8 miles of roadway. Includes the placement of about 5,900 tons of asphalt, about 20,000 square feet of cold plain, and other associated improvements to the roadway. The project was advertised in accordance with ORS and LCRB rules on June 18th, 2024. Bids were publicly opened July 2nd, 2024. The county received 4 bids on this particular item. After review of the bids, Eagle Elstner Incorporated was determined to be the lowest responsive bidder.
Questions or comments for the presenter? Seeing no objections.
Item 3, approval of a public improvement contract with Eagle Elstner for the Overland Park paving project. Contract value is $467,201. Funding is through House Bill 2017 road funds. No county general funds are involved.
This contract is for the Overland Park paving project, which is a little bit smaller. It's basically resurfacing about almost 7/10 of a mile of roadway. This is essentially Overland Street between Bell Avenue and 82nd Avenue. The project was advertised in according to ORS and LCRB rules on June 18th, 2024. Bids are publicly open July 3rd, 2024. The county received 5 bidders on this particular project. After review of the bids, Eagle Elsinore Incorporated was determined to be the lowest responsive bidder.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Health, Housing, Human Services. Item 1, approval of a subrecipient grant agreement with Parrot Creek Child and Family Services for rural mobile services. Total value is $200,000 for 2 years. Funding through opioid settlement funds. No county general funds are involved. Denise Swanson, Deputy Director of Health, Housing, Human Services. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair Smith, Commissioners. Denise Swanson. So this grant is specifically for programming that you approved at your June 12th policy session under our opioid settlement funds. Specifically, Parrot Creek will focus on our rural communities by providing mobile services to individuals struggling with substance use and abuse. And the services are going to include counseling, peer mentoring, and connection to community resources for housing and employment.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 2, approval of a board order authorizing a purchase order for emergency survival kits for individuals with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities from Ethos Evacuation Strategies under a cooperative contract. Purchase order value is $372,600. Funding is through the Oregon Department of Human Services. No county general funds are involved.
So this is specifically to be able to purchase generators for residential homes or family homes where continuous access to power is necessary for folks who are on ventilators or other critical medical equipment. It also provides emergency kits for people who are in developmental disability services and helps foster connections between the intellectual and developmental disability providers and local emergency response units so that they can be connected during an emergency.
Great. When will that purchase be made?
Ooh, probably once you approve it.
Seeing no objections, thank you.
Item 3, approval of a subrecipient grant agreement with Tudos Juntos for a prevention specialist in Estacada at the middle school and affordable housing complex. Total value is $200,000 for 2 years. Funding through opioid settlement funds. No county general funds are involved.
So another grant that we approved on June 12th. So this one provides for a prevention specialist to serve both Estacada Middle School and Wade Creek Commons Affordable Housing Complex. And they're going to provide after-school activities, workshops, and after-school programming.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections, thank you.
Item 4, approval of an amendment to a grant agreement with the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission for the Mental Health Court Program. Amendment value is $449,005. Total value is $625,285 for 1 year and 9 months. Funding through the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission. No county general funds are involved.
So this grant supports the Mental Health Treatment Court Program, which is a cooperative effort between our Health Centers Division and the Clackamas County Courts, and it funds treatment and other supportive services for participants.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 5, approval of an amendment to a grant agreement with the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission for the Adult Drug Court Program. Amendment value is $689,868. Total contract value is $883,316 for 1 year and 9 months. Funding through the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission. No county general funds are involved.
So this is similar to the last one, except this one is supporting the Adult Drug Treatment Court Program, also between Health Centers Division and Clackamas County Courts, and the same thing, treatment, housing, and other supportive services for participants.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 6, approval of an amendment to a revenue grant agreement with CARE Oregon for the Strategic Healthcare Investment for Transformation Program. Amendment value is $670,000. Total contract value is $820,000 for 1 year and 10 months. Funding through CARE Oregon. No county general funds are involved.
So this one's exciting because this is something that we were selected for in Clackamas County. This grant allows the Health Centers Division the opportunity to participate in the Strategic Health Care Investment for Transformation Project. We call it SHIFT. The intention of the project is to move towards team-based care for client-centered services to reduce health disparities and increase timely access in behavioral health services with our coordinated care organization, CARE Oregon. And as a participant, we receive financial support and technical assistance, and we get to help decide how this program will be rolled out throughout the state.
Questions or comments? Seeing no objections.
Item 7, approval of a federal grant agreement from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the Hope One leasing program. Total agreement value is $350,689 for 1 year, funding through a federal grant with a required 25% match of $87,672.25 from the Oregon Department of Housing and Community Services. No county general funds are involved.
So this and the next three that I'm going to talk about are part of a group of grants awarded from HUD for our consolidated continuum of care. So Hope One is a leasing program that provides permanent supportive housing services, including making deposits, giving rent assistance, supportive services, and case management for individuals who previously experienced chronic homelessness. And it's good to know that clients in this program face a number of physical and mental health challenges, including disabilities, chronic health issues, and substance abuse.
Questions or comments? Seeing none. I
Item-
need, just a moment, I beg your pardon, I need to step outside for a moment and take care of some county business. As chair, I'm going to turn the gavel over to Vice Chair Commissioner West.
Thank you. Item 8, approval of a federal grant agreement from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the Housing Our Heroes program. Total agreement value is $436,377 for 1 year, funding through a federal HUD grant with a required 25% match of $109,094.25 from budgeted county general funds.
So here's the second one. This program provides rental assistance, supportive services, and case management to chronically homeless households with at least one family member who has served in the military. And this fund helps participants to secure permanent housing through rental assistance, and payments of deposits.
What's next?
Ask if there's any questions or comments from your
Any
colleagues.
questions or comments regarding what we just heard from any other commissioners? Seeing none, Gary.
Okay, thank you. Item 9, approval of a federal grant agreement from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the Coordinated Housing Access Program. Total agreement value is $360,513 for 1 year, funding through a federal grant with a required 25% match of $90,128.25 through Metro Supportive Housing Services Measure funds. No county general funds are involved.
So here's the third, and you already know all about CHA since we celebrated their NACO award and success at last Thursday's business meeting. But for the record, CHA acts as the front door for anyone in Clackamas County experiencing a housing crisis, ranging from receiving an eviction notice to someone who's been living outdoors for multiple years. Through a phone call or follow-up to an online application, clients speak with a compassionate person who listens to their situation and connects them to appropriate resources.
Any questions, thoughts? Seeing none, Gary.
Item 10, approval of an amendment increasing funding from an intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority for the financing of community mental health, addiction, treatment, recovery and prevention, and problem gambling services. The amendment value is $1 million for 13 months. Total agreement value is increased to $16,854,233.26 for 18 months. Funding is through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved.
So you heard this one last week, and we're bringing it back because there was a clerical error where the title was approved, but we had the incorrect amendment attached to the staff report. So as a reminder, this adds funds for aid and assist client services, and specifically the funds are going to be used for the Community Navigator Team Pilot Program, which is launched by the Oregon Health Authority. And the Community Navigator team will help clients transition from the state hospital into community settings by engaging for 3 months before they're discharged and a minimum of 6 months after discharge.
Question or comment from Commissioner Scholl?
Yes, thank you. This item, this is a very expensive item, $16,854,000. Does that money need to be expended within the 18-month period? The reason I ask this question is, as we look at expenditures regarding mental health, addiction, treatment, and recovery, I can't help but think of a project that we hope to have coming online in the near future for addiction recovery. Is it possible to begin to build up a balance of funds that came from OHA for addiction recovery to have on hand for when this comes online?
So just to be clear, Commissioner Schultz, this amendment is for $1 million. Onto
Right.
the 16 million is our overall, all of our funding to be the CMHP for Clackamas County. So
For
this
all
is-
mental health
Yeah, for all of our
functions.
mental health. So this is just one
Okay.
piece of that for aid and assist clients specifically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I bring that up just because I'm concerned about our recovery center, which we want to get online soon, and also about our ability to sustain management costs for the facility. So just, I don't need an answer to my question today, but it's just something to keep in the back of your mind as we look at funding. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Gary, please.
Yeah, may I, Janice, do you know, can we carry over the unspent funds at the end of the fiscal year?
Oh, she already left. Mary was here. I will find out.
Find that
Yeah,
out, because that
I'll
is a
find out.
possibility
Yeah.
where if we can
Yeah.
carry it over, we might be able to use it.
Okay.
We'll
Thank
find
you.
that out.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Gary.
Gary, does that include potentially capital? Or is it-
Probably not, but we'll check on that.
Okay.
We'll check on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was the last item on this agenda that we had. Gary, what's next?
So that is all the requests for consent agenda. All of this will be on this Thursday's business meeting, Commissioners, for your action. Next on the issues list is approval of proposed bylaws for the Jennings Lodge Community Planning Organization. There was a memo in your packet with the bylaws. Tony Holowetsky, Interim Director of Public and Government Affairs, will present. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Commissioners. Again, this is a request to approve the amended bylaws for the Jennings Lodge Community Planning Organization. They made a few small changes. Primarily, they reduced the frequency of their meetings, annual meetings, and by doing so, also adjusted the number of meetings required for folks to attend in order to continue to be considered voting members. So that is the change in the bylaws.
So we're seeking a motion to approve, please.
I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the proposed bylaws for Jennings Lodge CPO.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Savas and a second from Commissioner Schrader. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Gary, Tony, will you please take the poll?
Commissioner Schultz.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Vice Chair West.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. The next item, Vice Chair, I'm not sure, I think Chair Smith wanted to be here for this, but we could pause or go on. It's solid waste collection fee review, a revisit from your policy session last week.
I think we can go on.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of consensus on this. She probably has some strong opinions, like all of us on this issue, but since there is a good amount of consensus, let's move forward.
Okay, we'll move forward. So this is solid waste collection fee review. You had a policy session last week. Not all of you were present, so Chair Smith asked to bring it back today. So we're not going to do the whole policy session over, but Dan Johnson, Director of Transportation and Development, can you give a 2-minute recap overview? And then Commissioners, we're looking for a motion from you.
I just would love to relive all that again. Yeah, good morning, everyone. Essentially, as Gary so eloquently stated, we're here for consideration of the annual review of fees and solid waste collection services. Essentially, as we discussed, this is basically an independent review that's done by an independent CPA that comes in and takes a look at the costs associated with providing garbage services and recycling services and various garbage collection services around Clackamas County. We shared with the board, when we look at these different costs, we have objectives and ranges and targets we like to look at, and for profitability, or margins, I should say, within those. I say profitability because it's not all profit. Those monies go to paying taxes and costs associated with the operation of the various franchises that we have around Clackamas County. We are here to share that essentially we have completed this review. We've run this review through our Solid Waste Advisory Committee. And there are 3 options for consideration today, one of which is maintain fees for current levels until next year's annual fee review. Second is to approve the fee increases as approved and recommended by the Solid Waste Commission, effective August 1st, 2024. Third is to propose an alternative to the amount or timing of the proposed increase. As we shared with the board at the policy session, staff would respectfully recommend option 2, which is to approve the fee increases as approved and recommended by the Solid Waste Commission effective August 1st, 2024. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions you might have above and beyond those that you were presented at the last policy session.
Any questions for Dan?
I don't know, I'm not asking Dan this per se, maybe Gary can tackle this one, but what was the issue for the dissenting votes?
So last time you discussed this, my memory was that it was deadlocked, so there was not a majority to approve the fee increase. That's why Chair brought it back. I guess I could respectfully say those of you who didn't support that could share with your colleagues why.
Yeah, Commissioner Scholl.
Yeah, I was just going to say that currently, the acceptable range is 8 to 12%, and right now we're at 7.49%, as I recall. And that if we were to approve option number 2 to go with the commission's recommendation,
Correct. That would get us within the margins, the 8
that
to
would
12%.
bring us up to, as I recall, it was 10.3, which is right in the middle of the acceptable range. And by approving option number 2, should we do that, it would preclude a year from now from us having to make a even larger adjustment.
That is correct.
Yeah, so seems to me that option number 2 would be in the best interest of everybody, including the ratepayer, because, you know, one thing about the cost of recycling and garbage, we all want to keep that down as efficiently as possible, but at the same time, we want to make sure that our franchisees stay in business. I don't hear any comments or complaints from constituents about garbage service. I think people are very happy with it. They're concerned about anything that increases another dollar coming out of their pocketbooks. But right now, I think our garbage and recycling in the county is good. So I think option number 2 would be a prudent move this morning.
Gary, can you please review how the vote went last week and who voted which way and who was here?
Tony has that, and we'll read that, please.
Please, thank you.
The motion was, I move to support option 2, approve fee increases approved and recommended by the Solid Waste Commission effective August 1st, 2024. The vote was, Commissioner West voted nay, Commissioner Schrader voted aye, Commissioner Scholl voted aye, Chair Smith abstained.
That's how I remember, and I was really the only no vote. My no vote was based on the constant increase without actually looking at the nice-to-haves or the effective things that we must do to carry out the services versus the things that we are, I think, a little more of a luxury and don't always have proper outcomes. And I think they're more expensive and they don't necessarily impact the overall community, and I don't think in a positive way, and they also don't impact the environment and global environment in a positive way. And there's a lot of things that cost money to do within the services that we provide as a nice to have, pretending like we're actually making a difference in, I know, climate change or the environment being good stewardship that we all pay for. And they never look at those type of outcomes before they ask for a rate increase. So for mine was a little bit more principled. I specifically spoke to plastics. And the expense around that, and how what happens is we take plastics that are often not recyclable, or we package them up at great expense. We ship them off to emerging nations or more poverty-stricken nations, and then those plastics are just floating in our sea. And often that market is quite volatile and has been at an expense to the ratepayer. Things like that. I gave other examples too. These things cause an expense, and I am just structurally kind of concerned with how we do that. And so that was the reason for my no vote, colleagues, and I'm still holding to my no vote. I may be in the minority, and there probably is 3 votes to pass this. I get it, and that's okay, but that's my reasoning.
Okay.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, well, I think this is kind of a unique one because we're really not we're not the ones who perpetuated the rate increase. It was Metro that perpetuated the rate increase. I know it's not exactly the same, but the policy or principle of cost recovery is something that we all seem to adhere to. And in this case, it's the private sector who's doing providing the service, that absent approval of the margin, which is really what we're talking about here, they're not going to be able to recover their cost for something that we didn't do that, again, was done by the Metro Council. So I don't see this as us raising the rates, and it's unfortunate that, again, the end user, citizens of this county, don't have much opportunity or say in that, but again, we didn't perpetuate this change. So just want to make sure people understand that, I won't say pass through, but this is really unfortunately passing along that increase, again, perpetuated by another elected body, not us. So, okay, that's all I have. I moved that we approve option 2, or was there already a motion on the floor?
We have another comment, or we could do it in discussion.
All right,
Yeah, either way, if you want to make your motion, that's fine.
that's fine.
Well, Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, well, Commissioner Savas already mentioned that this rate increase comes from actions from Metro on increased tipping fees.
Yes.
And I just want to remind the board that at MPAC, I did talk about the importance of Metro bringing the counties in on discussions on tipping fees in the future, which did not really happen this last year. Thank you.
Completely agree. I will entertain a motion now.
I move we approve option 2, approve fee increases as approved and recommended by the Solid Waste Commission effective August 1st, 2024.
I'll second that.
We have a motion presented by Commissioner Savas to approve fee increases as approved and recommended by the Solid Waste Commission effective August 1st, 2024. Commissioner Schrader, are you the second?
Yep.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Schrader. We'll open up for discussion on the motion. And I will say, I agree with the sentiments of my colleagues. I just think principally, I am tired of being the pass-through entity. And I think at a certain point, I want to use my voice and my vote to point out where I feel like there could be better outcomes for the ratepayers and better outcomes for our environment. I think that that's an important point to make that we never hear. So I'm going to hold firm on my vote for those reasons. And I wish that the counties were better listened to. And I want to thank Commissioner Scholl for his advocacy around the tipping fee process. There's a unanimous, I know, agreement on this board on that issue. Dan, we have talked about this ad nauseum and been upset with it. And just so my colleagues know why I'm voting that way, I just think that these are larger conversations we have to have, especially, when it does intersect with good environmental stewardship, and then how we are also weighing out the real economic realities of ratepayers. And sometimes ideology seems to overweigh the reality of the ratepayer around environmental policy and how that impacts all of us. So I'm going to be a no vote, just so you guys know that's coming, but I will probably be in the minority today. And with that, Commissioner Savas, you are up.
Yeah, I just want to comment, and that is that I wasn't at the hearing in which Metro did the fee increase. I hope that it was well attended and people spoke their mind, and encourage people to, in the future, look to that body. That's the place where it happens.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should be penalizing the private sector for an increased cost passed on to them.
Thank you, noted. Any further comments?
Yeah, just one more comment.
Yeah.
And that is the fee predictability cap that we thought we were going to get of 8% was exceeded up to 11.9. So even if it would have been an 8% increase or a little bit less, we still would be looking at some adjustment today in garbage pickup. So if this is approved, for those folks out there who have a 20-gallon trash can, this will add about $1.95 to your bi-monthly trash bill.
Do you want me to carry forward for you?
Yeah, let me get briefed on this. Go ahead, Commissioner West.
I just want to bring the chair up to speed. We were talking about the solid waste option on the agenda. There is option for option 2. There was a motion made by Commissioner Savas that is on the floor. We had it seconded by Commissioner Schrader to approve option 2. I expressed why I am a no vote and you already heard that explanation from the last meeting we had. My decision has not changed. And so we are now at the point, if there's no further discussion, to call for the vote, unless you would like to add to this conversation, Chair, now that you are hopefully up to speed.
My vote stays the same as it did last week. If there are no other comments?
Well, just for the chair's benefit, I just would like to express my rationale, and that is, I'll just repeat what I said earlier, and that is that we are not the ones who perpetuated this fee increase. That was at Metro. And so Metro is the body that perpetuated this rate increase, and I don't think that absent approval of this, that we should be penalizing the private sector for an increase passed on to them, in which we have a responsibility to pass, again, that increase on appropriately so that they're not penalized for being in business. Again, we did not perpetuate this rate increase.
And that's exactly why I'm a no on this. Metro has not listened to our objections to continued rate increases in this area. It's one large fee increase after another, and at what point do you stand up to this huge regional government that seeks to take over Clackamas County? And today, I decide to do that. Hearing no other comments, would the clerk please take the poll?
Commissioner Scholl.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
No.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
No. Motion passes 3-2.
so
Up
much.
next, thank you very much.
Next is demolition of old dog services building. I'll ask Jeff, would you please come forward to help me with this? This is a verbal briefing. There's no memo in your packet. As part of the replacement courthouse construction, we are building a new parking lot right outside of this building on the Red Soils campus. You've seen that construction. There are several buildings that have already been removed. And part of this plan is to remove one more building. It's the former dog services building. It's the big building that's still sitting out there, as you can see it. It has to be removed for the parking lot. This is within my signing authority. The total cost is $120,000. However, I'm not going to take a building down until I tell you first and hear if you have any concerns. So it's not a decision point. It's just an informational update. Jeff, can you give any more details on why we need to take the building down?
Yes, so for permitting for parking lot F, we submitted to Oregon City last September. The permitting department basically is done by the end of the year, but Oregon City Public Works kind of delayed. So we've been working with the contractor. You know, we got a late start out there with the contractor moving dirt. But working with Oregon City, where the stormwater for the parking lot goes, initially we wanted to keep that building because we used it during the pandemic for issuing out products to the public, disaster management. We use it as a distribution point. But now, because of the stormwater drainage piping, Oregon City wants it basically going on the east and the west sides. And with the elevation, with their increase in the elevation of the parking lot, it's going to put the height of the parking lot about halfway up the building. So it looks like a building that's in a hole and is actually going to cause some problems with flooding into the building, that kind of stuff. At this point, we want to make, lemonade out of lemons. If this is what we're being given, let's go ahead and demolish the building. We're also required to go ahead and have some secure fence storage for facilities and technology services, the CBX. So we demolish the building, basically compact it, working with the contractor, and have fence secured storage for other items in that area. We'll also have that big bioswale on the back side that they're actually constructing right now. So it's just eliminating the building. We'll have to look for some other places to go ahead and distribute products to the county if we have another pandemic or something. But this is just demolition of this building.
Questions or comments from commissioners on this? And Gary?
Any concerns before I go ahead and authorize this?
The only thing I'll say is, I know we're using the building, but leaving that building it's really old. Leaving that standing by itself kind of looks like a sore thumb.
It does.
So Jeff, do your best to find a more appropriate place.
Yes.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, commissioners. Next, review of your business meeting agenda for this Thursday, August 8, 2024. You'll have a reading and adoption of a previously approved land use ordinance. This is the utility facilities related to PGE. We are going to allow public comment on this item. We've discussed this with you previously. This is at this Thursday's meeting, plus all the consent agenda items you discussed today. If you have any questions on any item, please let me know prior to Thursday. Happy to answer it for you. Next, advisory board and commission appointments. Tony, go ahead, please.
Beginning with the Clackamas Workforce Partnership, this is an informational item. The Workforce Partnership is notifying the board that one of their positions, there's been a replacement. Mark Foster is now serving as the Vocational Rehabilitation Branch Manager and has been appointed to the board. This is directed by the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. Secondly, Eric Estep has been reappointed in his role as a member of the board, again governed by the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. Any questions on the Clackamas Workforce Partnership?
Questions from commissioners? You're just notifying us of these positions.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you.
Let him vote to formalize it, please.
Apologies. Chair, I would ask for a motion to approve the appointments.
Chair, I move that to the Clackamas Workforce Partnership, we approve Mark Foster to his first term, June 20, 2027, Eric Estep, second term, July 15, 2027, as they've been appointed.
Seconded.
Commissioner West has moved we appoint to the Clackamas Workforce Partnership Board Mark Foster, Eric Estep, and Commissioner Shaw has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Would the clerk please call the poll?
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, Chair. Second up is the Clackamas County Community Health Council through currently through a recruitment process. Let me start that entire one over again. Recommended for appointment to the Community Health Council is Jacqueline Arn to a first term.
Chair, I move that we appoint Jacqueline Arn, who's been appointed to her first term, 7/31/2026, to the Clackamas County Community Health Council.
Second.
Commissioner West has moved we appoint Jacqueline Arn to the Clackamas County Health Council. Commissioner Schrader has seconded the motion. Further discussion? Yes.
Yes, I see that Jacqueline Arn has spent some 31 years assisting families with health and mental health issue referrals. Thank you, Jacqueline, for your service to the county.
Thank you. Seeing no further objections, please take the poll.
Commissioner Shaw.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Zavas.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0.
Next up, the Committee for Community Involvement currently has one opening on the committee due to recent term expiration. Through a recruitment process, one application was received and is recommended for appointment. That recommendation is Danielle Weber to a first term.
I move we appoint Danielle Weber to her first term on the CCI.
Second.
Commissioner Schrader has moved we appoint Daniel Weber to the Committee for Community Involvement. Commissioner Savas has seconded the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Tony, please take the poll.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Schull.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Chair Smith.
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Gary, what's next?
Thank you. Final item today, Chair, is Commissioner Communications.
Who wants to go first? It's all open. Mark, you want to go
Okay,
first?
thank you. Last Friday morning, I was in Molalla for the groundbreaking for the new Molalla Police Department. That was a great ceremony. A lot of really nice people down there. I really enjoyed it. Also, this evening at 5:30, I'm going to see if I can't get up to Welch's for the Forest Service Strategic Plan meeting with that community up there. And then tomorrow night, Molalla is celebrating the passage of their bond for the middle school.
Yep.
So I'll be back in Molalla tomorrow night for a little social barbecue with them. And then I'd like to remind you all that this Friday at 4:45 in the town of Boring will be the Boring and Dull Day celebration. And Chair Smith, I know it's going to be very boring and dull, but you should try to get over there if you can.
I will.
It starts at 4 o'clock for the social parade at 4:45, and there's always plenty of free ice cream for young and old.
The ice cream is so good. Are they still serving Tillamook ice cream
Yes,
this year?
they are, and my favorite is their white chocolate raspberry truffle.
Ooh,
Yeah, it's worth it.
Great.
It's worth a trip. Thank you.
thank you. Commissioner West.
Thank you, Chair. It's been a very busy last couple of weeks. Just give a quick update. We have been really involved all weekend, starting Thursday afternoon, with trying to figure out this deflection debacle coming out of that we talked about today. Very good collaborative conversations. I had the honor to join Commissioner Schrader to the Jeff Merkley's town hall. He took time to meet with Clackamas County local electeds first, in a private meeting where we were able to really express some of our concerns about Clackamas County issues. He is well aware of our need for directed funding from the federal government with our recovery campus, and he is championing some funding that way. And we were able to really talk about some really important local issues. There were state representatives there, mayors, other Clackamas Community College, so that was a really good meeting. Yeah, it's just been a very busy week. We'll be able to give a little bit more report maybe on Thursday after our business meeting. But yeah, I look forward to continuing to do the work, and that ice cream does sound good.
Thank you.
Marionberry, what is it, Marionberry pie, Tillamook is pretty good too. Little chunks of crust in it. So maybe they'll serve that.
All right. Commissioner Schrader.
Well, yes, I was able to introduce Senator Merkley at his town hall, and Ben, you did a great job talking about the Recovery Center. He said, Commissioner Schrader, would you like to say something? And I said, I'll let Ben talk, right?
That was your first mistake.
Both. No. It was a good mistake, because this has been a big push for you, and I fully support it, having visited the Haven for Hope down in Texas, and I'm glad that he's on board. Commissioner Shull, I did have an offline conversation with him about forestry issues. I do believe he's supporting secure rural schools. I don't see that as an issue. And I told him that we would follow up with his staff, so maybe you and I can have a conversation about that, about what that would mean. And he has been a big advocate for our county and what we do. It did get a little bit heated towards the end because we had some protesters.
Yes.
And it was about, I honestly thought the hot button was Palestine, really, and the issues that we're dealing with globally with that. But evidently, we had some protesters about the Philippines. Because of some of the actions of the democracy there that people disapproved of. So that was interesting. It's a new global kind of issue that I'm just trying to wrap my arms around. But as I said, it was an interesting ending because people were shouting and Senator Merkley left, and I was like, thank you very much, everyone. See you tomorrow. And I felt very safe with you.
Well, I was worried. You're giving them a lot of credit. I thought I was gonna have to jump in front of like flying objects or something. It got rowdy. I was like, Commissioner Schrader, get off the stage.
And I was like, I had a 60-acre farm and raised 5 kids. It's nothing. Seriously, yell at me. Who cares? Well, I do care, but it is what it is. It's free speech, but it did end peacefully, but it did get kind of rowdy at the end. The other thing I want to remind folks is today is National Night Out. And I'm going to be spending it, thank goodness, in my hometown of Lake Oswego now, because we're going to have a block party tonight. So I'm really, really looking forward to that, looking forward to really getting to know. I know most of my neighbors. I'll get out there with my barking dogs. They don't like their barking either, but then they see the dogs and they're too cute, so they don't get too mad at me about that. And then finally, I guess I'd like to talk a little bit about this deflection piece. I am very disappointed that our colleagues at the state level for some reason aren't understanding what we're doing. We've had tremendous success in the past. I remember this program in the days gone by. It has always worked. I never understood Measure 110 because we had kind of had this process in place. That really was that integration between public health and public safety, and that's what I see it as. I don't see it as a hammer to put people in jail. I kept saying, but there is a public safety component, because people who are in this issue, when they have addictions, they have no agency, and they are a danger to not only to themselves, but occasionally to other people. And I know, Ben, that you had a friend of yours just get accosted. Yeah, assaulted in Portland. And it's not that you want to throw those folks in jail, but you have to have that balance of how you're going to integrate your systems. So I'm really happy about that. And speaking of systems, I just got the report today from the Clackamas County Child Care for All group. I'm going to be reading that through and talking it over with Gary. But they're trying to increase capacity here. For childcare, that's been one of the things I've been working on, because it lets people get to work and be prosperous and know that their children are safe and sound while they're on the job. I think that's important. All my daughter now, my older daughter's kids are in school, but my younger daughter does need childcare, and she's a prosecutor in Sussex County, Massachusetts. And knowing that she has a safe place to leave her kids and that they're happy there, they like it there. And developmentally, my observation is if you have a stable family and you're using childcare, actually the kids get a lot of socialization, are well-adjusted. So I'm a big proponent of working through that. So those are some of the things I've been working on. I want to give a shout out to Clackamas Community College. I have been helping them raise money for their bond. And I'm very interested in making sure that they get that bond renewed. It's not additional dollars, it's at the same level, because they continue to be a major piece of our workforce training engine here in this county, not only with the business center, but with all the technical education opportunities they offer students at a reasonable price. So you'll be hearing a little bit more about the bond as we move forward. Vote for Clackamas Community College. We've done it before. I think people will do it again because it's one of our greatest education resources that we have. And they are starting to team up, believe it or not, with Oregon Tech on some issues about looking at enlarging their co-campuses together in Wilsonville, because that'll get kids into community college through a system. And then if they want to go on and really get a more advanced degree, Oregon Tech is right there and we'll offer them that opportunity. So lots of good things going on, and have a fun night out today, ladies and gentlemen.
Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I was thinking about the conversation earlier today with the district attorney regarding his deflection program, and, him, when he was speaking about our prior success. And as the conversation went on, I realized that, maybe we are, when someone performs really well, I think in the spirit of competition, I guess we always also have to be cognizant that maybe someone who's maybe doing really poorly may not feel so good, right? You're making everyone look bad, so to speak. So I just recollect a period of time when I was working on the space shuttle program in aerospace industry, and I got assigned to a new project, and the project was estimated to be about somewhere between 8 and 20 weeks to do this project. And I did it in 2 weeks. And the folks in the machine shop there said, "Paul, you need to slow down. You're making us all look bad." And I didn't really take that very seriously. And actually, that was a theme that was going on. So when the next the next pay raise period came by, everyone else got about a raise of about, back then, 25 cents was a big raise. And I got a dime. So it doesn't pay sometimes to work hard or do well, but the irony is that, I've always lived and believed that we do the best we can, and we set an example. And I think that's what leadership is all about, is setting an example in process improvements and making things more efficient. And I think there's something for all of us to learn, whether we fund something that may not be successful, or we fund something new, or we fund something that is working, that we actually kind of fund them all, because we learn from those experiences. That's what metrics are all about. And I go back to the fight I had, the first thing I brought, the Association of Counties, when I was really young. I was trying to advocate for why did Oregon abandon, I guess it was during Kulongoski's period, why did Oregon abandon the Oregon State benchmarks, right? And it was like about 150, 160 metrics, I believe, if I recall right. And I used to study them all the time, just look how we're doing on education, how we're doing on all these different social issues and all the facts. So the AOC, when I put the resolution at the AOC conference, it was approved unanimously to ask the state to reinstate the Oregon State benchmark. So we did that. Long story short, as we're working with the state and with AOC's help, after that was approved, the short answer is that, well, you know, those metrics, that can be used against us. Doesn't make us look good. Well, you know, I think the reality is that it's pretty common now in this age of technology and analysts and all these surveys and all the comparisons that are done that if we don't do it, another agencies out there are doing it for the whole country. And when Oregon is the bottom of this or the top of that, we either shine or we don't shine. But the fact is that if we're, you know, not doing so well, that ought to be the incentive to improve and find ways to improve. So again, I don't have the explanation of why we've had such, you know, bumps along the road where we are being treated either differently or methodologies or systems don't really play in our hands or work well or are fair or equitable. But, you know, I hope it's not a double standard.
Thank you, Commissioner Salas. Yes, National Night Out is tonight at Happy Valley. I will be in attendance. Thank you very much, and the Boring Dole Days as well. But Commissioners, tomorrow afternoon at noon is a very important luncheon. It's our employee recognition luncheon, where we honor our employees who have been long-time service in Clackamas County. So if you all could attend that, I think that would be wonderful. Seeing no further business before the commission, we will return at 1 p.m. promptly. Gavel us in then. We have 4 policy sessions this afternoon, and thank you all for your participation.